5:30, we'll call the meeting to order. Lieutenant Woodward, would you like to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. All right. Non-public and public meeting minutes from the May 1st, 2025 meeting.
Only non-public.
Only non-public, I'm sorry. Somebody want to move to?
I'll make a motion to accept the non-public minutes from May 1st, 2025 as written.
Second.
Okay, motion by Don, second by Scott. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I would entertain a motion to seal the non-public minutes from tonight's non-public session.
Make a motion to seal the non-public minutes indefinitely as
It's hard to read, sorry.
affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board.
Second.
Okay, motion by Sean, second by Don to seal the minutes of tonight's non-public session. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda for 5/15/25 consisting of accounts payable payment manifest dated 5/5/25, accounts payable ACH, NHRS and WEX payment manifest dated 5/6/25, accounts payable payment manifest dated 5/13/25, payroll payment manifest dated 5/8/25, and tax warrant for spring billing in the amount of $6,626,160.50.
Second.
All right, motion by Don, second by Scott to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself tonight.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, just so you know when you're signing this, I didn't have the sign here stickers tonight. There are 3 warrants to sign. And then I tried to turn them sideways for the
Okay.
others. You just sign the bottom of that one, John.
Okay.
We'll just make sure at the end of the night that you
Yeah.
have everything you need.
Yeah.
All right, Chief LaRouche.
Evening.
How you doing, Chief?
I'm great.
Good.
So just to say it, we are at full staff again for the first time in a long time, so it's been a good week. And the application process has looked pretty good for the new position, so I feel pretty confident that we'll remain at full staff, including the new positions, which is awesome. So I'm back at kind of a continuation from the last meeting as far as the car replacement and kind of getting ahead of any big increases in the automotive industry and really every industry. We were actually just, the deputy and I were at the Wayland factory for the Fire Chiefs Association meeting last week. And they feel like they're in a pretty good spot as far as their kind of vendor mix and how they get materials. But they can't sit there and say, no, we only use US steel or aluminum from here or whatever. So there'll be some impacts to the upfit materials down the road. Where I'm at right now, and I think even though it'll kind of make this, it's always going to be piecemeal because you got to use a couple of different vendors when you buy a vehicle like this, a Tahoe pickup truck, that type of thing. There's not, you go to Smeal where we buy our fire trucks or Osage where we buy our ambulances, and it's a one-stop shop. You're figuring out the lettering, you're figuring out the radios, the upfit, and the vehicle. We did get a quote from, and it's in this packet, from McGovern to supply the vehicle and do the upfit. Ultimately, their vehicle price is a little bit higher. It is for a 2026 model year. They do not have any 2025s left in their available allotment from Chevy. So to his point, he said, well, I could get you even a little bit better price. Well, that's great, but you don't have it, so it doesn't really matter. I've looked at the difference between the 25 and the 26. There's not a significant difference. in general, and certainly not from what we utilize it for at the fire department. McMulkin's has a 2025 Tahoe in Victory Red on site with our name on it at this price, which is already a less expensive price, about $1,950 difference. So what I'd like to ask you to do is approve the purchase of the Tahoe tonight so that we can get that locked up. It gives me some time to get a third quote. We've already reached out to a vendor as far as the upfit goes to be able to get a third quote for that. We'll probably get a fourth where we'll have kind of 3 weeks until the next meeting, so we'll really have a good idea as to where we're at. Yeah, and then I would, in all likelihood, come back in the June meeting or one of the June meetings to approve the rest of the process. I also did put some information on here after that conversation for John and whoever else wants it. Anybody can look at it. Kind of, it's great questions, right? It's. I think I said to Christina, it's, you know, every couple of years, right, the board turns over, and some boards want this much information, some boards want that much information, or some boards want this information and not that information.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have come in 2 weeks ago, had that preliminary discussion. This is the kind of things that I at least want to know, and I can have some time to provide that instead of trying to think on my feet or, you know, not give you the right answer.
Questions for the chief?
Do we have the, is the PO in here?
No.
It
It's got-
is.
I have a paper PO if you want it.
Yeah.
I thought I
Didn't
just
get it
saw.
in the system.
That's
Is
even
it in
better.
the bottom?
Oh, no, all right, never
No,
mind, that was a
that's
different
the-
PO.
Yeah. We have a paper PO, the systems is still a work in
So long as you got
progress.
the number.
Says,
Oh, sorry.
04 car loan replacement.
Who's doing the motion?
Okay, yeah, no, this is just the stuff that we had last, no, it's got a May 13th date on it. So it's just the stuff that was up here.
No, the PO that's in there is not that one.
Right, no, but I'm looking
Yes.
at something that says
Chief,
FD car
Thanks for putting
loan.
that together.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
she put together, so the
Yeah.
quotes are in the bottom.
Okay,
Well, I'm glad I did, because quite honestly, I had no idea. Bo has, between chiefs and deputies moving around, they decided
Yeah.
to not fill their deputy chief's position a couple years back and still don't. And, so,
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we'll get into this.
So let's get a motion on the floor
Yeah,
for your
sorry.
discussion.
yeah, okay, I'll make a motion to approve purchase order 004298 for the purchase. It says 2025, but I'm gonna put 2026.
it is a
It is
2025.
2025.
The McGovern was the 20.
This
Gotcha, okay, never
Yeah.
mind. Chevrolet Tahoe, not to exceed 54,897.
Do you want to have the TA sign it?
And authorize the TA to sign.
There you go.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion by Sean, second by Don, to approve purchase order number
4298.
4298 for the purchase of a replacement for the fire department SUV. Discussion, John.
No, so all I was saying, so Chief, really good that we kind of put this stuff together, because for me, when I ask those questions, it's a trickle-down effect. It's somewhat of, when we're trying to look at the services that we're providing out, it's also like from a planning board perspective, right? Everybody's heard me go drone on about the master plan, but like, what are we saying, what kind of community we're gonna be, what are we comparing ourselves to? So all this stuff flows and connects together, so I wanted to thank you for putting that together. That's all.
Wow, actually still making a V8.
Yeah, right.
Thought it was only-
Sean, do you have anything?
No, I'm just going down the list. Frankly, I was surprised that was, I thought it would be more. I know we gotta pay more for the upfit, but
Yeah.
I thought that would be more on the vehicle.
All right. So we're not upfitting anything at the moment?
Correct.
How much do you think that's gonna be
So,
offhand?
right now, the highest number that I have, the highest numbers that I have would put the total project at just shy of 82,000.
Okay.
The McGovern quote already brings a big portion of that down, quite a bit of that. So Mike, it will be below 80 and probably significantly below that in total, including the 55 for the vehicle.
Right. because the CIP has it in as 80,000 for replacement.
Yep.
So that's right
Yep.
right in the range, that's good.
We projected that one right. Maybe not the other ones. I've been working on that all
We'll
day.
sharpen our pencils for the future ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and just for the information, for the public's information, this pretty much falls in line with CIP. I think we might be a hair early, but.
Yeah, it's a year early, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the whole reason for the CIP and having the capital reserve.
Yeah.
Is if it needs early replacement, you do it. If it can be held on no longer, you do that too,
Yeah.
so.
And the intention is to, and Chief Larash has weighed the pros and cons of keeping the vehicle or trading it in, and, the keeping the vehicle outweighs, the benefit that it would be trading it in. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say? I know we've had private discussions about it, but just to.
Yeah, well, for what we're using it for, and, maybe we're a year or two out from, 100% needing that vehicle, but then you've gotten rid of it, and, you're looking at even just a vehicle, right, 50,000 plus. Like we said last week, just talking to the dealers, they're anticipating something in the $6,000 to $7,000 neighborhood that you're gonna see state bid go up next year, so,
Yeah.
it just makes a ton of sense. Keep it for now.
Scott, do you have anything? Very good. All right, hearing nothing else, I would say all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Do you have anything else while you're here?
No,
You don't sign.
busy, but that was it. We're at full staff, and we'll get Tahoe and continue to work on that, the rest of it.
Very good.
Nice.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The number.
Okay.
That else, give it to you.
Yeah, I think she needs us to because it's coming from the reserve account, so somebody would need to figure out when that
Yeah,
can.
we have one.
Energy Committee.
So I'll get that.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to Energy Committee. I know it does say, Police Department vehicle replacement up there, but yeah, well, he had some other questions on that before he could present that, so.
No, the
we're gonna-
energy committee's not here.
Oh, the Energy Committee's not here. Okay, well, I guess we will move on to the town administrator's report.
Was Paul was doing?
Yeah, he was supposed to be here. But he may not have known it was 5:30 instead of 6, so he
Yep.
may not be here till 6.
If he comes in early, or if he comes in by 6, then we'll figure it out.
So, just open it. Under the TA report, first thing, May employee recognition. We're thankful for the employees who celebrate the anniversary date for joining the Bristol team. Very thankful for their years of continued service. At fire department, we've even cleaned in 15 years. Rob Glassett, yes, I know it's not 15, but.
Thank you for
Matt
his recognition.
O'Neill is 4 years. In the town beaches, we've had some people that have continued to serve. So Ray Forshane is coming back and celebrating a year.
Nice.
Peter Simons is celebrating 3 years. Highway Department, Justin Merwin, he's been here also longer for the town, but he switched to a new department after taking a break, so his is a year. And Minot Sleeper Library, Captain Larry is a year, and the executive, in the executive department, I will not do that one right now, so. New Hampshire, in your folders is under the discussion materials, there's a New Hampshire Employment Security Community Profiles worksheet. These towels are out of order. I didn't know if you had any input on it. Normally, we would just go in and do an update. And sometimes, we would just go in and update the information that's on these pages.
What's that under, never mind, I'm sorry, I found it.
You got it? Okay. So they do Economic and Labor Market, Information Bureau of New Hampshire Employment Security. They do an update every year. Usually we just go ahead and do it, but sometimes I think it's good to ask you if you have any input on this. I can wait I have till May 30th to do the update. I go into the portal and make the changes. So if you wanna take a look at this, and just see if there's anything you, have an opinion that needs to be changed on it or corrected at all, let me know, so.
Okay.
Memorial Day, there is a flyer in your folders. I did want to mention it because it's taken a little bit of time to get the information out from them. They are going to do a Memorial Day observance. They're not doing a parade, but Monday, May 26th at 10 a.m., they will be inside the gymnasium theater at the Newfound Memorial Middle School, and parking is at the middle school. We'll get something posted on the town's website, and we'll go from here. And I'll get it to Kate as well, so. Also, Belknap Landscaping is in your folders. So this is the trees that are downtown that we talked about replacing. If you go into the discussion materials, it just says 47362. That's the original purchase order from Belknap, or purchase quote from Belknap Landscaping. I did go out to other vendors. The only one who responded was Cameron's, and they won't give us a warranty. So I'd like to get us moving forward if you agree.
It's the whole point of
It's the,
spending
This is the
Right.
one that we did, talked about at town meeting. Right?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because Sean, I think you had gotten up and.
Yeah.
So, we did tell them at town meeting we would try to get quotes. The only one that came back, they won't do a quote because they won't do the warranty.
All right.
Yeah, and
So-
just for information, we did approach some local contractors just to gauge interest in this, and they basically don't have the ability to, they don't have the ability to warranty the project, for one thing. So that's kind of why we're moving in this direction. And so I think we've done our due diligence as we had promised we would do at town meeting, and I think it's time to move forward with it. I don't know, you haven't spoken with Belknap lately, have you?
No, I did let them know we wouldn't have an answer
Yeah.
right away after town
Yeah,
meeting.
I'm not sure when they will move ahead with doing this, just because I think certain times of year are better than others. And it's also gonna depend on their schedules, so.
I think the last time we talked about them, if they didn't do it in spring, it wouldn't be until fall.
Fall, right?
Yeah.
And then they do require us to do a few things. I've talked to Victor about in case ahead of time. Victor would, my thoughts would be sign this, get it back to Belknap, and then turn this over to Victor.
Yeah.
And have Victor work with them, because Dixie has to be contacted. We have to stage the site, excavate 4 areas, so and I'd rather have Victor or someone. Sean,
And reach out to what appears to be the new owners of
Enos.
Enos.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's sold.
Good.
Yeah. The same company that bought a big one in Canaan and Enfield.
They spent $7 million, not just here, $7 million on all the properties they bought that week.
When did that happen?
I saw it in the registry review like a week or so.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
good, okay. One other thing, just to, not that it affects this right now, but to note going forward, is we did have a discussion about how snow removal is going to affect those, particularly, so the town snow removal efforts and also the snow removal efforts of
Yeah.
Reno, on that property, whatever it may be called now, so. So it doesn't adversely affect what we're trying to accomplish with having these trees last after we
Right.
spend money on planting them, so.
Yeah, especially the way the state uses salt.
Exactly.
Profusely.
Yeah.
Sean, I think what we were planning to do is move the trees ahead.
Yeah.
So, off
Yeah.
the, property, but I do want to give them the heads up that we're gonna start doing that in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, previously, I'm not sure what plans the new owners had, but they had talked about redoing that fence.
They were supposed to rip it out.
Yeah. Which is kind of a shame, because it's a beautiful
Yeah.
iron fence, but just to make sure everybody is communicating.
With them.
Yeah,
They have reached out about the stone wall.
yeah.
I'm gonna let them know by tomorrow. I just had to make a couple of changes. The attorney made, the only document that won't be signed on the parsonage is the easement, because we have to wait for the deed to be recorded, and that gets added to the easement. So I'm supposed to print them copies, have it ready for them to pick up, look it over, and we're supposed to meet next week and hopefully sign.
Awesome.
You just answered one of my select board
Which,
questions.
That was on
I
mine.
know, it's not on this. We will reach it once we get the signature. I had the check, it was a stale check, so I just had it reissued. That was paying for it. It doesn't affect this year's budget because it was from last year. We will reach out to the contractor once everything's signed and start the demolition review process. And then we've also been contracted with Belmont Landscaping to keep the tree if possible, so. That was good. Newfound area, in your folders, there's a flyer, we're gonna post it online as well, I don't know if I put it in the folder. I did. So, Newfound Area Block Party, Newfound Area Small Biz Block Party is this Saturday. It's May 17th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a privately run event. It goes from Kelby in Hebron all the way down through Bristol, and to the last stop is in Hill. So we'll make sure the flyer's up if it's not already, but they put the flyers out. I thought it would be nice to mention because it looks like it's gonna be a neat event for them.
It does look like a neat event.
We did allow them to set one vendor up in the square, so they've done that, they're gonna do that as well,
Okay.
so.
So, one of the things that, sort of on my items later around the EDC pieces, when I first saw the flyer, the first thing I thought of was, why isn't the EDC necessarily trying to help figure this out, because I think this is a big deal. Anyways, but that all comes back to us setting the priorities and being able to kind of communicate that back out, so, so just for what it's worth.
Good
I
stuff.
think it's amazing, so I'm very excited for it.
And another thing real quick, we need to bring back up and talk about budget schedule and deadlines for the department heads. We've got our deadline with the budget committee, but we haven't issued any deadlines for the department heads. If we're gonna do the one-day session, that's fine. I just need to know when to tell them that they need to submit their budgets by.
Yeah.
So we can schedule that I can send them an email saying, hey, just get your stuff ready in time for the normal deadline in September. But we'll give them more information after June 5th, at the June 5th meeting, if that's what you want. June 5th will be a longer meeting, heads
I
up.
think that makes sense.
Okay. One more thing?
June 5th.
And once you start talking, maybe. So right now, no. There is your information only folder. If you look in that and there's anything you feel needs to be brought up, those are just for info. And other than that, and there's Paul, perfect timing.
All right. We are gonna go right to the hot seat.
Come on in, Paul.
the electric chair?
I apologize, we
Solar powered.
started at 5:30.
And I didn't get to tell you, Paul. so,
All right.
Yeah.
Are you ready or do you need a minute?
No, it's good. This is pretty simple stuff. You're familiar with the community power situation, and we're waiting to become a part of the risk pool. They have been through some changes, and of course, the good news is that community power has had the result of driving down our power prices. So we're working at low power price. I mean, Eversource has responded by lowering their prices,
Yeah, they are.
and they are low.
I just called them, as a matter of fact, and they're down at 8 cents per kilowatt now.
That's right. So that's part of the pressure this community power has had. There's some belief they're shifting some costs over to transmission and distribution, because they're asking
They're raising their transmission.
they're asking 17% on transmission and
Right, and
distribution.
that was gonna, so I saw this the other day, and I had that in mind to ask you when I saw this, so.
They deny it.
Yeah.
They deny it. Oh no, we would never do that.
Yeah.
But, you can't look at their books. So this all comes up to the PUC to decide, and PUC people are, not elected officials, they're appointed officials by the governor, so it's hard to know how they're going to land on this, all right? I have my own attitude and position on transmission distribution, but, you know, it's interesting to note that places that own their own transmission distribution operate at much, much lower cost than those that are owned by utilities,
Right.
almost across the board. So anyway, as a result, we're waiting to become part of Community Power to have it launched. In addition, Community Power has just passed an agreement amongst themselves to become part of our group net metering project. This is a solar project. It's referred to as Poverty Plains Group Net Metering. It's a fairly large one, 5 megawatt facility, as big as you can build it in the state. And because we are one of the couple of communities, I think that's in Berlin, a couple of communities who were ready to launch but couldn't launch because of this risk pool issue. They have offered us the opportunity to be part of the group net meeting. They're giving us, they're oversubscribed for it already, but they're giving us the opportunity to become a member of the group net meter. Okay? This is, there's no downside risk that I can see for doing this. This doesn't impact any of our existing relationships. We can still have a relationship with a provider like Constellation or anybody else. It saves us 12.5% on generation. That's the expected average. So assuming there are about 6,000 kilowatts per year, we need that, kilowatt hours per year. I think we consume that, so I don't think there's a problem with qualifying. And it would give us a 12.5% credit for each kilowatt hour consumed. No downside risk. We can be part of it. It's good for any power we buy. It ends up being about a penny and a half per kilowatt hour. It's not huge dollars or money. It's generation, not transmission distribution. But it would take the 8 cents down to 7 cents, 6.9. Saves us 12%.
How does it affect, will it help Constellation at all? Or probably not.
No.
We're locked in with Constellation by
Right.
the end of the year, so.
Yeah.
It would lower that number, that's all. And if we wanted to sign up with Constellation again, should we want to do that, it would have no effect. We would still get this benefit from that. So that's really all there is to it. I wanted to bring it to your attention and tell you there's an offer that's been made to us. That we've been given somewhat of a preferred status because of the situation we're in. I think they feel badly that we're not part of their sort of risk pool and we weren't able to launch and so forth. So this is a little bit of, I suppose, a consolation prize in a sense.
Christina?
I just have two things. We previously were part of a net metering and we did get payments from it. This only reduces the bill. It doesn't give us payments out, does it?
No, it doesn't pay out directly. It's a credit on the bill.
They changed the law and we couldn't be net metering at the time, but they've changed the law again, so now we can. The second thing, I did not have a chance to have the attorney take a look at the agreement. I did want to help the attorney just make sure there was nothing in it that concerned anybody.
So there's a couple of things that just operation I think we need to be aware of. In the terms, it says it's good, this contract is now through 2040. So basically we're saying, okay, we're gonna sign up for 15 years, and if we decide to leave the agreement, it's a 12-month notice. Is what's in here now. So all I'm saying is that really does require some planning, right? 12.5% sounds great, and I'm definitely appreciative of trying to figure out how we're lowering the costs, but at the same time, we're basically entering into a 15-year agreement with a 1-year out.
That is true. I can't think of a situation in which we'd want to exit, however.
No, we're not in it right now, so without the experience of it, right? Like to your point, I think there's a lot of upside. Right now, all I'm saying is operationally, this goes for every contract I think we want to process. We should know how we get out of it if it doesn't work right, and we should know when it terminates and what those mechanisms are and who doesn't. That's all.
If it's 15-year, I guess that brings the question, can we approve that as a group?
That would be my next one, but that's what it says in terms and
I
termination.
think you can only only do 5-year.
Anyway, so it needs to go to the attorney, I
If
guess.
I
but-
remember
Yeah,
correctly,
you're
I
gonna-
think you can only.
You'll have
do
to ask the
5.
attorney whether we can approve this or if it has to go to town meeting.
Yeah, I will ask, because I would like to make sure that I run it by the attorney with the conference this week. I didn't get it to him, so.
We definitely should check on that, and thanks for that reminder. I would say, you know, I would be for it.
Listen, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm not against it, I just want to make sure.
It makes sense. Net metering is a thorn in Eversource's side, so for that very reason, I'd be for it.
It's
But,
a good thorn.
It is, yeah, it's a helpful thorn. But we definitely should, run that by town council. I just try to look up the RSA right now.
So that's something we can address at our next meeting.
I'm gonna have to reread it, because it does say unless otherwise terminated by host or member pursuant to this section, then or extended beyond, it means, so it will end on December
It was
31st.
24, all I'm saying is just the timeframe and
It does say that member may withdraw within 12 months, as
Yeah.
John said, and written notice, 12 months. So we could exit at any time as long as we had a 12-month notice.
Correct. And Paul, my only question around it is just sort of like, who does it, when do we, you know what I mean, like, what are the pieces there? Thank you.
Okay. So we'll have the attorney take a look at it.
Yep,
We'll address the issue of term. I have two thoughts on term. One, they allow us to adjust it. Two,
Right.
we shorten the 12-month to something less. You know, we could wiggle either one of those parameters to try to make it a little better. I can float those to them, see what they think. 5-year is what,
I believe,
I think it's 5.
I believe anything more than 5 has to go to town meeting.
Yep.
about 5-year with Evergreen unless we say no? Does that idea work? In other words, it rolls unless we say anything?
I don't know if, if the council
Would accept that?
would accept that or not.
All right.
In my opinion, that's kind of,
Well, the
I
thing,
get what you're trying to do, but in my opinion,
I'm
that's
just
kind of
trying to-
skirting the RSA.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand for points of negotiation.
Yeah.
I mean, it does allow you to do you can do a contract for a year automatically renewed, so you could, in essence, be in a contract for 20 years with somebody
Yeah.
if you don't change it.
Yeah.
So,
That's the thought I had.
That's in the
but
question.
I would check with the attorney.
But how do you cancel? Because we, I think we probably have other contracts that have auto renew clauses.
They do, but usually they give you, most of the ones that we're in are 60 to 90 days notice.
Okay.
This is the first time I've seen a year, so.
All right, I'll push on them too. I'll find out what the sensitivity is on those two parameters, term, notice, and, yeah.
But
All right.
listen, I think bottom line, at least for me, makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you, Paul.
Awesome.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
send
you,
it to
Paul.
All right, thanks.
All right, select board items. John?
Okay, so EDC, we just need to figure out when on our next workshop, when we can really get after the priority list so we can get the EDC reconstituted. Because like I said, when I was in, I think I was in Odyssey. It was either Odyssey or one of the other, anyways, it was one of them where I saw the pamphlet and I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. But then at the same time, like, oh, why isn't the EDC helpful? Well, the EDC doesn't really know what we're doing yet, and we're kind of waiting. So I just want to get back to our priority list so we can kind of pass that down.
Yeah, this was, this came out of an effort from private businesses like Odysea and others to basically create a networking, small business network.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Effort, and spearheaded by the folks who moved into the Kelly's Grooming Building.
Yeah.
And I'm blanking.
Yeah,
on
Stay
the-
Rooted.
Stay Rooted, thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Jim's business.
Yeah, and please go see them. They're a new business in town, which is great. But there is sort of this underlying surge of entrepreneurship that I see with the local businesses.
Yeah.
Who, you know, I had the gentleman from Odyssea say, you know, who do I talk to about this? Who do I talk, things that I want to do, you know, not so much business related, but event and happenings related. So I think it's great, and it should be encouraged. The problem is, I think one of the problems is they don't know that EDC exists,
Yeah.
especially the newer folks, and EDC doesn't know exactly,
Well-
you know, what's happening when these grassroots efforts come up. So
100%.
getting that communication back, I think, from like when we first started, because everyone was interested in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm looking to do, because I also think there's linkage between these activities and the stuff the planning board's doing, right? Like, all back to my whole rant about the master plan, right? Like, I think there's linkage in all this stuff. Anyway.
Can I just add to, I
Sure.
think that if you're going to start bringing the EDC in for type of events, it'd be good to start also talking about what you want to see community events group do, because
Yeah.
now you're starting to involve another group over here, get them all, if you're gonna do that, get them all on the same page.
Yeah.
Anything else, John?
No, that's good. That's plenty.
I have a couple quick ones. One, we've started emailing, communicating, starting work on the roads group that we talked
Oh,
about. So we're looking to start meeting here hopefully next week, and get started on identifying those areas that need work and help. And so that's good. I'm looking forward to that. I just dropped the second one. Hold on, I'll get it. What's that?
I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Bro.
So,
Catch it, Sean, catch it.
yeah.
Hurry up.
God, that's
You can
awful.
jump in if you-
Go ahead and come back around.
Just one more thing.
Just, yeah.
You sure?
Yes, yeah.
Done.
All right. I just wanted to remind on the swim line moving to.
Yes, we
Well,
talked.
cross that off my list.
No, I noticed that there's actually, they put it in right to where there's two posts there,
Yeah.
and we just have to widen the posts. I mean,
Either widen them or they have to put in a, because what's happening
move
is
the post over.
it's drifting into the mooring field.
We did do site visit, and I prefer to bring that
Yeah.
tonight, so I'll have that for the
Yeah.
6.5. We have some solutions potentially, and I'd
Okay.
like to be able to apply for DES if you agree. I just don't have them ready for tonight. We did walk, Victor, Deb and I walked the whole Every Cross area. We talked to, oh, and I need to send an apology because we said the wrong company name. We said the wrong name when we
On who
said
did the
thank you.
installation?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Mount Cardigan, God, I wrote it in the other book.
Cardigan Mountain.
Cardigan Mountain, yes. I
Yes.
will post it on the news item because I feel like we said the wrong name.
Did we
last-
say Newfound Dock and Mooring?
Yes.
Isn't that his company also?
Not with a
Okay.
contract. with-
Cardigan Valley,
Cardigan
Cardigan Valley Farms.
There you go.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
Devin DeCormier, shout out.
so we did walk the beach, we did look at the lines, we did come up with 4 potential, one that's already existing, we just need to clean up and add some pavement, and 3 other potential access points. So I'll get those, I've drawn them up by hand on a map, but I didn't have time to get them for tonight.
Did you go over to Cummins too?
No, I started with Avery Cross first,
Okay, yeah.
because that seems to be the bigger.
I've
Concern.
had people with the adjoining beach from Cummins
Yes.
complain to me in the past.
He's
about this.
fixing
And
the
I want
lane.
to say that they put the swim lines right where the post is. They did a
Yeah.
beautiful job on the swim lines. I'm not busting on them.
Yeah.
I'm saying that we need to widen that,
Post.
So-
move the post and
Yeah.
widen the area
Yeah.
and do an appropriate adjustment of the swim line.
He's
That's
fixing
all.
the extended line, but also someone took some of the not moorings, but what they anchor to, the anchors.
Yeah,
So he's also working on a resolution. for
Yes.
that. That's why they haven't been fixed yet.
okay.
So he is going to be fixing them.
Yeah.
So
Not complaining, just making a
No,
comment
no.
that we need to also
the
move
lines
that
are
post.
gorgeous, so. so.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they did a great job. The other thing is, it came up at the planning board last night, that, do we have any plans to put an actual sign at the new public safety building explaining what it is?
It is up, there's a
Yeah,
public,
there is a
there's a
sign.
sign.
Yeah, the sign, they said the signage is sort of lackluster for such a building, and that was the comment made,
Yeah.
that people said they go by and don't even know what the building is.
There is a
Is it
sign,
police
it's
and
about
fire?
the same size as the sign that's out here, it says
Yeah.
public safety building on it. Police,
Okay.
fire, and EMS.
Maybe we need a scrolling banner
No.
across. Yeah.
No, but I do think that we do have to put some type of signage also on the building eventually.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
We just didn't, I think the signage originally got cut out, if you remember correctly,
Yep.
when the funding got changed, so
Okay.
it might be something we could do.
Yeah, just something to think about.
Yep.
It's a nice building, we should be proud of it, let people know what it is.
It's a clean look.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Just that Sean and I had a chance to tour some of the roads while it was raining during the storm, and Top Hall Road needs some attention.
Yeah, it always does, yeah. That's, yeah,
That's gonna require lead removal.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
yeah, and that's fine.
It's a different
That-
material.
And that goes back to my point, is we've always said we can't do anything in there because there's ledge, but we've never said, let's get rid of the ledge.
Right. They make
And I know it's
excavations.
expensive, and maybe, like, this goes back to the whole question, maybe we pave less miles, but we do right
Right.
and long-term.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you, in walking both Upper Birch and Bear Mountain, there are no cracks after a winter. So,
Yeah,
so you look at West Shore Road where they just painted it black last year, and it looks as cracked as it did 2
Any
years ago.
complaints on Hemlock Brook lately?
No, we did find nothing on the road itself, the speeding was the complaints. So we did try to put up a trailer up there, but we also found out that there was a speed limit sign in Bridgewater only, and so we installed the speed limit sign in Bristol side, so, because there wasn't one, and, I don't think there was anything else. I'm putting Tim on the spot.
that seems like the most impossible road to really speed on. If you're going downhill,
Yeah,
you
really.
know,
You're going downhill, you're going in a ditch.
right.
Yeah.
If you're,
Yeah, really.
When you're cooking your brakes.
It's more towards the top too,
Yeah,
which is
where it levels out,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or where it washboards too,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
Other road, speaking of ledge, is one we've had problems with the past, is Peaked Hill Road.
Yeah,
We thought we would end up putting some culverts in where we could, but we can't ditch it.
Right.
There's so much ledge, so that's something to think about too, so.
And then the other thing I had was that Highway Department did a great job cleaning up the trees on Overlook Drive after we had a couple come down with this.
Couple things I had, Historic District Commission met the other night. Nothing major, they are looking for, they do have an open position, so if there's anyone interested. And I also told Dorcas to speak with Kate and yourself about getting it out there, both on Facebook and on the Bristol Buzz. Other than that, nothing major going on there. Parsonage, where are we with that?
Okay, I'll tell it again.
What's that?
You weren't listening,
Did
you already told us.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you, I had it in my head, so I had to ask it, so just ignore me.
I will have a bigger update for you on Monday. How's that?
I remember you saying that now.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so once we sign, Victor's plan is to get in and fix that wall as soon
Okay.
as we sign. We just couldn't do it until,
Right.
you know.
Till we own it. What are our plans with the sewer line through there? The sewer line to the.
Yeah, it goes
yeah.
under the building.
Sewer line to the church runs through the.
It's been added to the requirement in the demolition, so
Okay.
we just have to. make
There's a
sure.
sewer line to the church. running under the building.
Sewer from the church doesn't run out to the road, it runs through
Yeah,
to the rectory,
Okay.
yeah.
and then to the road. Yeah.
Which, there's no
Oh.
issue for leaving the line, it's just
Yeah.
being careful
When
when
you
you
do
do the
demolition.
demolition.
Yeah.
Because we're not putting a build structure back.
Right, but also when we're done, we want a space,
Yeah,
I don't wanna be looking at, you know, a partial foundation with a sewer line.
oh, yeah,
Right,
right,
Yeah.
right. It was also covered in the demolition,
It also
When we
means we gotta be
size.
careful of where we plant, so that way if it ever.
Well, I think the
happens
plan is to eventually get rid of that line and hook up
In the
the
street.
building to the street. At least I hope that's the plan. I mean, that's what should happen. Yeah. And speaking of sewer, where are we with any of that?
So, with the funding from EPA, we have just had to do an extension request. It's gonna take about a month to confirm it because of all the new guidelines that are in place. It has to go up the chain. They don't see any problems for us, but we are still moving forward. We do not anticipate starting before June, or middle of June, something like
Okay,
that.
so-
But
Okay, the only other question I had, did you schedule a fireworks committee meeting?
no.
Okay, I just couldn't remember.
We talked about it, and it's just me, you, and Steve Garten. Because we decided that we would take the department heads off
Yeah,
the committee. I want to run something by you.
let's get together
Yeah.
this come in the next few days and. All right, that's all I have. Everybody good? Yep.
Yep.
All right, public comment.
Not on anything you're talking about. However,
That's why we have public
So,
comment.
Mr.
That's why we
Chair,
have public comment. Yes.
Mr. Chair, can we just have, for the minute purposes, can they, I know we're in, but can they?
Yeah, if anybody does speak,
Just-
please identify yourself. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so,
Ray Miller, 148 Holiday Hills Drive, Bristol. And the reason I'm here is I understand that within the next few weeks, we're going to have some dynamiting in our neighborhood. And I want to know why there is no ordinance in this town to give this guy a permit, or why the Conservation Board isn't looking into this prior to the work being done, and why the town is aware of the fact that there is a bat sanctuary back there with a cave in the ground. And to my knowledge, bats are protected. There's a sign up in the woods put by a gentleman called Dr. Jacques Veilleux. He's a Frenchman. He's a biologist and whatever else at Franklin Pierce University. I've left messages for him to call back to find out whether this dynamiting, which is going to encompass 20 homes at least in a less than 8-acre area, that possible damage may occur. Because at the first blast that we had over 10 years ago, dynamiting, which was further up the hill, several of us had cracked foundations, cracked floors, garage and house. And this guy came last Saturday. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but this is one of the neighbors that's involved with the blasting. And he said he doesn't have to let anyone know except the abutters of this blasting. And that no other damage will occur, if at all, right in this area. But we have 20 homes and less than 8 acres up there. And I don't understand why they're allowing this without getting someone to come up and check this out.
20 new homes being constructed, or 20 homes in the air?
Existing.
Yeah, okay, that's what
There's a brand new home next door to where the blasting is going to
Yeah.
occur,
And the blasting is for another house?
for another foundation.
Yeah.
Now, the house that's just finished, this guy did jackhammering rather than blasting because he's a, retired fire chief in Framingham and knows what kind of damage can be occurred with dynamiting. Well, with the first dynamiting we had, the underground water veins completely changed. So now the back hill where she lives is constantly underwater if we have heavy rain. In fact, the new house that was just built, they have a pipe this big coming out of their front stone wall that was gushing water all weekend.
I'm assuming this is on the property that we discussed a couple of weeks ago with the drainage?
No,
No.
no,
No.
behind that,
Okay.
yeah.
And
That's where it's.
the new house that's just finished has a stone wall that goes down.
If you remember where we talked about, there's a road that goes up.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're
yeah.
looking at it on the right-hand side.
Croydon
Yeah, the dirt road that goes up.
Yeah.
There's another house up on.
So is this on Croydon Road?
On Cronin Drive, right,
Okay,
right
Cronin
across the
Drive.
street from where she is.
So I'm Sandra Lively.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi. I'm at 35, and this property is owned by John McDonough, directly across from my driveway. And so there are two relatively new homes on both sides of him. I received a letter from a gentleman regarding the need for a pre-blast survey. I contacted him. He was at my property last Saturday, I think it was Saturday. Walked through my property, took his photographs inside, outside, foundations, and next day I was out with my camera, taking
Right.
pictures. I
Yeah.
took about 45 pictures of just the exterior of my home, went, the foundation, the walls, any place I knew that there were cracks, etc. So the comment that this gentleman, his name was Michael Nutting, the comment he made to me was that there's no ordinance, no town ordinance that required the company that's going to be doing this work to seek permit. But that they were taking it upon themselves to notify certain butters. Left me a little confused because his house right next door to me, they were not notified.
Yeah.
And he said, well, they're out of range. I went, really?
But not direct abutters.
Not direct to butters.
Right.
to
It's
my
like
left.
800 feet
So-
away.
Yeah.
But they have notified, they notified the butters on either side of that property, and then also Jim Libby's house on the corner
being
of
built.
Croydon and Hillside, who, we went through a whole rigmarole last year, if you recall,
Yeah.
with him moving my curb stop for the water, okay, and that all happened beautifully, thank you very much.
Good.
But they notified him and also his mother's property, which is adjacent to him,
Yes.
and further down Hillside Drive. I think it just seems like I don't know if they've really notified everybody who they're supposed to within that range, or chose to, because apparently they don't have to. But, so the concern is, in speaking with Tom Barberi, who's one of this gentleman's abutters, this is the newest house that was right next to Croydon Drive. So when you go up Croydon Drive, first house on the right. He's the gentleman who was a previous chief of the fire department in Massachusetts, I think Framingham. And he said that this is what Lorraine was alluding to, when he chose to start developing his property, he chose to use jackhammering versus blasting. Because as a fire chief, he had actually been called out to a number of situations in Massachusetts where, rock was thrown up into the air and going through people's roofs, et cetera. So he didn't want to take on any of that responsibility or liability. Anyway, so the question Lorraine has done some homework and
2 days on the phone, and all we're getting is a lot of callbacks with no information.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
stop you for
so-
1 second.
who needs to do that?
Are you aware of any of this?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a full answer for you.
Okay.
I've been working with Joanne. Joanne's been talking to DES about the bats. But we have no local regulations.
It's
There's
not
state-
DES you want to talk to, it's
Oh,
National
yeah.
Fish and Wildlife.
Yes,
Fish
that's
and-
who we were, because they were
No, not
on the
fishing.
DES application,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So Joanne has reached out to confirm, but we have no local regulation, it's all state regulations.
Yeah.
So I've asked her.
Are there
if she-
municipalities with local
There are
blasting
some,
ordinances?
there are some. Some of it's under building code.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I was gonna say,
Which would be the state fire marshal's office.
Have you talked to the fire chief about this?
Yes, Joanne emailed the fire chief,
Okay.
emailed the highway department, and I think the police chief.
And I think Lorraine just.
Yeah, I just spoke to them, he
so.
was aware of it.
So it won't really help you in this situation, but I would think, I would think that for the town to adopt something like that, would have to go through planning board, and
Yeah.
go on to the zoning amendment ballot.
Yeah. I remember speaking to Carol Brown about this a couple of years ago, because he's on the Conservation Board. And one of the comments he made to me is, we need to be doing more checking on areas that are gonna be doing blasting for foundations. Well, this is one of them,
Yeah.
and no one has ever approached the place to look at
Do
it.
they have a date?
No.
When Mike Nutting was at my property last weekend, he said it'll be somewhere within the next couple of weeks. At that point, I was thinking, okay, by Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So, and he did say that he would contact me, probably text me, to let me know as soon as he knows when it's going to occur. Just so, because I said to him, I want to be home when this goes on. You know, I want to be watching to see if my trapezoid windows are going to, fall into my living room, or the 70-foot pine next to my house is going to tumble, or, something's going to happen in my foundation. At any rate, so.
Who's the contractor who received the survey from?
The interesting thing, I don't actually know the contractor's name. The gentleman who did the pre-blast survey, his name is Michael Nutting. I think he's from the Bedford area. I have a telephone number for him. But there's actually no business name.
So he's not, that's why I was wondering if he was from the blasting company.
Sounds like he's an outside consultant that,
That's what
Yeah.
third party that,
And he
to
said, he did
cover
say there would be
this.
blasting for
several days.
several days.
So I said, how long is this going to be? Will I feel it was my first question.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna feel it all right. If I can feel it in
He
my
said-
house.
He just started
you're
laughing. He
gonna
said,
feel it.
oh, yes, ma'am, you will. And I said, will it take more than a day, do you think? He said, oh, it's going to take several days.
Yeah, because the problem is when they blast, they then have to
Clean it
remove
up.
the blast debris,
And then
and
see,
then
see
move
how
on to
successful
another
they
section.
were, yeah.
Right.
That's why it takes multiple days, and it's not just a.
I don't understand, if you need a permit to set out fireworks, which are less dangerous than dynamite on a lake and a river right behind my house, not even 150 feet down is the river, and no one seems to even think twice about it.
We've never run into this situation before.
Yeah, we don't-
That's how these come about.
I was just gonna say, the permitting for fireworks also isn't us,
It's
it's
to the
state.
state.
Yeah.
State.
And I
Yeah,
called
we
the
never adopted a
He's-
local ordinance
So
on
when I
here.
actually contacted the state fire marshal, who said,
Yeah, you called me back.
it's not our
It's
responsibility.
not our
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
that
our
was
responsibility.
that was where I was going with asking about
Yeah.
talking to
So-
the fire chief.
So as frustrating as it sounds, Lorraine, beyond asking questions and maybe pointing you in certain directions, we have nothing as a town to hang our hat on.
Yeah.
But if we know that that is a known hibernacular, there are some resources.
I mean, the fact that bats are protected species,
Well,
and it's less than 1,000 feet from where?
the northern long-eared is, and the other ones, even though they are in serious threatened condition, they don't have the same federal protection. But if we don't know if there's a northern long-eared. If there's a northern long-eared, the Fish and Wildlife Service would be very interested in that.
So we pulled I don't have which property, but we did pull an older application. I remembered something being on one of them, so I had Joanne pull it and take a look at it. And there is mention to bats and turtles on that application. This bought one of the turtles, but,
Yeah.
so I had her reach out. I can tell you what it says on this application, if it's northern long-eared or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but,
Is
I mean,
there a contractor currently working there?
No.
So they haven't broken ground?
The ground has been broken a number of times
Yeah.
over the past number of years with various contractors who started and stopped midway.
Yeah, because of all the granite.
I mean, the land has been, if you took a drive up there, the land has been, trees are gone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really large slabs of
Boulders.
ledge and boulders that are now exposed on the property. So some work did start sometime this spring.
This is an
But none
extent.
of this major.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
it's-
This is an extension of the fact that what used to be prohibitively expensive is not prohibitively expensive anymore in terms of value, versus returns. So people are willing to put $100,000 into site work
Mm.
before they even, pour a foundation, where 10 years ago, that would be unheard of, right?
That's a very true statement.
Yeah.
Christina, the state though,
That's what I was trying to find. I found the
because
code.
I guess that,
I have
my,
If I may, I looked it up while you guys were talking about this.
by all means.
There's a,
Perfect, because I couldn't get
State
to
of
it.
New Hampshire Permanent Licensing Unit, which is headed up or in charge under Captain Victor Muzzy, who used to be a trooper in the area, fun fact. And the phone number is 603-223-3873, which is the office number down there.
I've already called it, I've already spoken to everybody
They're
in
the ones that handle all the
Concord.
permits for the companies that are regulated by that in order to do it. So it
I mean,
doesn't sound like-
blasting is
Yeah, they handle
definitely something.
explosives.
Highly regulated.
Yes.
So that would be the office of the handle.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna be able to tell you what you wanna hear. But I would strongly suggest still working with the land use office, and if, that's gonna be your best resource.
Land
From
use or
us.
even planning.
But
I would think the planning board would
Long
investigate
term,
this.
but
long-term,
But
yes.
short term, there's,
Yeah.
like I said, there's nothing to hang our hats on, because we don't have anything on the books.
Yeah,
I think, when I think about the last 3-4 years of the planning board, that never had a situation where somebody was talking about blasting.
Most of the time, you don't even know about it.
Yep,
Yeah.
and they did a lot of blasting over the years up on Sunset Hill,
Yeah.
above Red Fox there. You'll see the blasting mats coming in and out of there, and nobody,
Sunset Hill Sunset, yeah.
Sunset Heights.
There you go. They did supply insurance certificates to the town when they were doing that, but it wasn't something we could say, no, you can't blast. We asked them, they provided it.
Was that because of the water system?
Some of the regulations and I don't remember them all, this was
Yeah.
back when I was doing it, but
Yeah.
there were some regulations under the state that said that they could provide insurance certificates to the neighboring properties, but I don't think we can force that. That would have to been under the state.
And there's definitely strict regulations that have to be followed by the blasting companies, as long as they're working with someone reputable, that they don't, if there are rules, they're staying within the guidelines.
I did speak
Because
to
it's
land
their
use.
license is at
Yeah.
stake.
I did speak to land use, and the only thing that they were able to tell me is that because there is that protected bat cave area, they may not be able to blast. I said, well, why hasn't somebody gone up to check it out, conservation or somebody?
We don't have the authority to step on the,
That would be the state again.
private
Yeah.
property
Yeah.
as a town official on the Conservation Commission or this, you would need landowner permission to do that. And even then, I'm not sure that we have anything that we could do besides advise you on who else to call, which it sounds like you've done most of that.
And I don't know if, would Fish and Game have any more resources that they
Leave a
could?
message for them.
Fish and Game will tell you to contact Fish and Wildlife.
Yep.
Yeah, and you might as well talk to the wall, because I've called in, left messages, and all they do is, here's the extension, leave a message, and they don't get back to you.
Wow, I must be unlucky. I filed an intent to cut on a property with a bat cave on, and everybody came out of it.
I mean, I have bats living at my house, and I love them, because they eat all the bugs. But I didn't even realize that we had a bat cave not even 1,000 feet from where I live.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got pictures of the sign that this professor.
I didn't realize we had a cave in Bristol.
It's the old bat cave.
I mean, I
It's
got
the
pictures of
old
bat
mine.
cave that
Yes.
her son took the pictures and sent them to me when we found out what was going on. And I said,
Yeah.
well, maybe they won't be able to blast because of that protective situation. But I said, nobody seems to know anything, or they can't even give you any answers. It's like shoveling you-know-what against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other public comment?
So nothing can be done, right?
Nothing that the town
Can't
can,
slow it down to
Hold
figure
on a
out,
second.
there's more that can be done.
not on a town level.
I don't tell you.
We just don't have any authority to act on it.
Joanne did text back and she just said, they didn't, when they had talked to land use, they were looking for better addresses to do the pre-blasting survey. He didn't know when the blasting would take place at that time. He said he would reach out to the fire department, police station, and the land use office. She was still working on, I think, the bat, asking the questions about the bats,
Yeah.
but she hasn't heard back yet.
Well, tell her she needs pictures, I've got some.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, folks.
Thank you.
No
Sorry.
problem.
Thank you.
Grant Woolsey, 1217 Summer Street, Bristol. Keep this short and sweet. What can you tell us about the incident that happened with the police in his car on March 30th and 31st?
We cannot tell you anything that you probably have you seen the WMUR broadcast?
Just today, but this
Yeah.
happened months ago, so what's been happening with the information? As a concerned citizen and a resident of this town
Yep.
for 53 years,
And
I'd
I
like
s-
to know what's happening within this small town of ours.
So I certainly appreciate that concern. As the news report has said, that there was an incident. The town followed procedure. When that was brought to our attention by the chief of police, we then ordered a third-party investigation into, in addition to what the police chief had told us, that at that time, the investigation then came back and cleared the police chief of any wrongdoing, and he has been back to work ever since. That's all, like, I can't tell you any more than what is already, has already been released to the public, and so I can tell you that WMUR filed a 91A request, which is a right-to-know request. Any information that we could provide within what the within legal
Constraints.
Town council.
legal constraints. So we've been working with town council on this. What can we legally release to the public? We need to make sure we're not violating employees' privacy or the privacy of the general public. The main concern of this board, so we have to look at a few things. Number one, public safety. Is there a risk to public safety? No, there is not.
That's not true, because he went to the
Okay.
school and he went to the school and threatened
We
people.
know a little bit more. My
We are
kid goes to that
parents.
school.
Can you identify yourself, please?
I'm Lisa Heath. I'm from Alexandria, but I
Thank
also
you.
have property in
Yep.
Pacton. My children go to that school. One of my, there's video footage. We all know that. We have seen it personally.
I have.
So I know a lot more about the situation because I know everybody involved in the situation. So it is very concerning. It is a safety threat. We don't know. We got a thing from the school saying the incident was handled when in reality nothing has been. You guys haven't said, and nobody's said anything, which you have a ton of parents. I'm telling you. You have a ton that don't want to speak out because they're terrified because of who it involves.
Retribution.
Because they know the people involved. But they're terrified. And what's happening is you guys aren't transparent at least a little bit, so nobody knows. All we hear is from the school is there's an incident outside the school that happened. It's okay. But we also know as parents who have kids who know that group and know the people, that the same person was in the school, bragging about it.
And nothing
That
happened.
nothing happened. Like I said, I don't want to name names, I don't want to say, but I know that it's a concern, and you guys might not, but it is. And the parents are starting to get very, very concerned and worked up. So there's got to be some kind of some kind of communication, because we're left since March 3rd. We knew about it, only because shots were fired in Alexandria. Okay, in Alexandria on Carl Gordon Road.
Discharging a firearm.
And it wasn't just
You guys
Alexandria.
don't want to give out any information about it?
I
It's
know
almost like
nothing
you're trying
about a
to
situation
under the
in
carpet.
Alexandria.
I can
It's
show
not
you
gonna
video,
happen.
I can show you
It's on the
proof
internet.
of where the house was. I have
You
the
can't,
surveillance
you guys,
footage
you
from.
can't deny it. You can't deny this happened.
I
You can't
can,
tell- when there's kids involved, kids brag. And you
That's
receive a
my
letter,
concern.
you receive a letter from the school that says a situation happened, but it's been handled. What situation? What?
give me 1 second. Is anyone aware of a letter that was issued by the school?
I have a have to take it up.
If it was issued, it wouldn't have come to the town, it would have.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, because first I've heard
Parents-
of
You
it,
must
so.
have, parents were
yeah.
getting concerned, so,
Yeah.
so
So this-
because they knew about it.
There are a lot of rumors going around. There is an investigation that took place. So as
Excuse me, but.
no, you're gonna let me finish speaking. So there was, so I'm gonna base this off of what WMUR released. So the WMUR released the information that the cruiser was taken and that a firearm was fired, okay? So I can tell you right now that there was a state police investigation conducted into that criminal activity, okay? So that's one aspect of this whole situation. So state police has conducted their investigation. I don't know if they're done with their investigation or not. I don't know the outcome of that investigation, but what I can tell you is that investigation involves no wrongdoing whatsoever by Police Chief Christopher Bean, okay? And then outside of that investigation, there is an internal investigation. So the internal investigation was conducted. Did the police chief violate any department policy, okay? That internal investigation came back, which that investigation was released to WMUR, and that investigation came back that there was no wrongdoing on the part of the police chief. So the police chief was, for a short period of time, on administrative leave. He is now back to full duty. He has been for, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks. So if there any, so now there's a third part of this, and what you're talking about, what's going on at the high school, right?
It's not just the high school, I'm going to be honest, as a parent.
Right, but so you have a
This was-
safety, you have a safety
and
concern?
This was me and my child, and it was my situation. I would have been on the news. My child would have been I'm telling you, my child would have been out there. And we all know, okay, the three of us sitting here know exactly the people involved, okay? And that is the concern. And while you say there were repercussions for his actions, right? Okay, come on. If I left a fire home in my house open and somebody that I was very close to got it, who is in, that wouldn't DCYF be called on me? Wouldn't I get in trouble for having access where he had access?
I'm not law enforcement, so I can't comment. I'm not law enforcement, and I'm also not a lawyer,
But
so.
we're expected as citizens to put our guns away. We're gonna get prosecuted for our kids getting a hold of our guns, right? He's a public servant that is supposed to set the highest standard,
Yes.
highest example in a town. And he leaves his belt in his closet and forgets to lock up his keys. How is that possible? If he's law enforcement, you do it every day. You do it every day. How do you forget?
And we also know the other parties involved. Like I
And we
said,
have
I
the
don't
written
want
footage
to
and
say-
stuff of the
I don't
incident.
want to say the person, but we know if my child was in trouble at school, I wasn't bad, but like in trouble with a reputation and bad and was out drinking, doing things like that, I would think more than twice about leaving something around. That's my concern. And then, like you said, it's not just that, you have the entire school. All the kids know about it. All the kids are talking about it. I mean, Snapchat footage was out there like the day afterwards, just popping around, of the incident. So kids are talking about it. You've got him bragging about it, going to school saying how cool it is. You have other kids seeing it, and nothing is done. So you're gonna have other kids, which is my fear too. Other kids are gonna think, oh, well, he didn't get in trouble, or he's gonna think the same thing. Oh, I didn't get in trouble, somebody else can do it, you know what I mean? I mean, doesn't it just involve that? You guys all know it goes drinking and driving, 3 towns. It's everything. And the fact that it's just, everybody knows you can't say it, because you don't want to say the parties. But it's, the not saying anything is what's going to, it's just too much for people.
There's no
You
accountability.
guys have got to come out and say
There's no
something. I say you guys
accountability.
need to get onto it, especially with the school. Somebody has got to go to the school and talk, you got to have some kind of safety issue with
So
kids.
a lot of what you're bringing up, that is encompassed by that state police investigation. A third party, which, one thing I want to point out is, one of the points that WMUR had made is that state police notified Chief Bean It's the other way around. Chief Bean notified state police and initiated this investigation. He handled everything by the book once he was made aware of this incident.
Well, you also have police officers telling other people, like, I have a concerned relative who asked a police officer, hey, you know, I heard shots fired at 4:30 in the morning, what's going on in Alexandria? And they live down the road, okay? And they're like, you know, just kids being kids. Guys, yeah, that comes out.
So let me be very clear.
I'm just saying.
We are not aware of any incident that occurred in Alexandria.
It
It
did,
did.
we have ring
There's
footage
ring
of
footage.
it
Then
all.
you need to contact state police with that information.
Because it's not fair to us citizens, you know, when we do something wrong, we get pulled over or whatever. Like I had the kid harass our kid. Cops didn't do, wasn't here in Bristol. Cops didn't do anything. I asked 2 weeks prior to this incident, what can I do? He says, I can go talk to him or you can get a restraining order. Cool, kid's 18 years old. I don't want to ruin this kid's life. Cop never did nothing. I threw a soda, got arrested for assault because this kid assaulted me first, but because there's no cameras, I got charged. Now this kid, you know, he's only a kid. His life's gonna get tough. Well, whatever the
Yeah.
incident is.
We still don't know exactly who it was, because there's
But
no
we-
ignition. Were there any minors involved? Was there alcohol?
If there
involved?
was a minor involved, you will not be notified of it because
Okay,
of that.
but again, there were multiple people involved. We don't know any of the details. Nobody's coming, nobody's fessing up. That's what's irritating about this. The more of the cover-up, the more guilty it looks.
I think you need to understand that the town is bound by certain privacy restrictions and that we have done everything in our power to cooperate and to release information. There is no other information that the town can legally release, and you need to understand that. And I know that's not what you wanna hear.
So how did MURTV get the information? They should have been offered to the citizens of this town. They had to file the paperwork to get it, to pull it out of the system? Is that how that works?
I do, the town of Bristol does not report to MUR anytime we have any type of internal investigation or personnel matter.
I think the problem is we're such a good, close-knit community, but what's gonna happen is seriously, you're gonna go to high school, all these kids, it's on, everybody knows, it's on Snapchat. You're teaching the kids, oh, it was nothing. All the kids are laughing about it, joking about it as nothing happened. And that's one of my biggest concerns. Because if he can do it, who's to say somebody else can't do it? You know, and then the next kid, and then you get a school shooting. I mean, it's really, 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 really scary to think that the person who was in charge of the town so easily left it there, accessible to the person to get it. And I know who's involved. I know the people involved. So to me, it's very frustrating because I know the situation. It's like,
If you have a safety concern, be it at the high school or out in the general public, then you need to take it to law enforcement, whether it be the Bristol Police Department, which obviously I understand there is a possible conflict there with the incident that occurred. So my suggestion would be to go to state police with the information you have, and if there is a concern there, that they will deal with it. We are not a law enforcement agency. We have a law enforcement agency that falls under the umbrella of the town of Bristol, but they are also and please, if anybody else on the board, I'm not a lawyer, so I want to make sure I don't say anything wrong, but we do not direct the police department. The police department is governed by RSA.
Yeah, correct.
So they have to order, am I correct? So,
but you guys not saying, nothing perfect, you guys not saying anything, like it's been tight-lipped, but the video footage instantly hitting everybody's, I mean, like every parent, every parent has seen it by now.
Yeah.
And I think somebody's gonna address, you have to at least come out, even if it's Demi Rivera has done something, not every parent, you gotta come out and say, listen, I know there's been an incident in our town. If we're safe, then that's what you guys need to say. You are safe, we are safe, that it's being handled, the person involved, because everybody knows who's involved, that it has nothing to do with the high schools are safe, you know. And then maybe some of you guys, like, you need to advise the high school to have some kind of meeting on safety with the kids, because as far as I know, half the kids are like just nonchalant about it.
So relative to this incident, I can assure you 100% that there is no safety threat to the town, to the school, or any of the surrounding area. If there was a threat in any of those situations, we would have not only our police department handling, but I'm sure it would escalate to state police and any other relative agency.
How do you know it's not a threat? Did you know this was gonna happen? Did you know he was gonna take a gun and shoot in town? You didn't know? It wasn't a
What's
mandatory
the policy on
threat?
securing your firearm?
It-
If he's not out of town, I mean, I'd like to hear from somebody else. You're doing
Sure.
all the talking, Rob. So somebody come.
Yeah, and
Jump in,
Grant, that's
John.
just,
Yeah.
Jump in, John. I think.
so let me run the meeting, so, Sean, why don't you go?
But there's other select.
No, I appreciate what you're saying,
because
It's not select
things
men,
go through the
it's select
chase.
men. and-
Well, hold on now, hold on. I mean, let's keep it amicable.
Yeah.
When we say that an internal investigation was done, it's actually an external investigation, 2 external investigations. State police investigated, and the quote-unquote internal investigation was done by an outside agency, okay? That agency reviewed our policy and came back and found out, and came back with the findings, thank you, determination findings, that policy was not broken. Now, could it have been poor judgment? 100%. Could it have risen to a point of an issue with the law? That's for state police to determine. I have no idea. And I don't know where state police is going on the investigation of the people involved in the incident. What we do know is that state police came back and told us that there was not likely charges pending against the officer. Okay? So, having said that, as a board, if we wanted to fire an employee, we have to have cause, okay? If we fire without cause, we are open to a huge lawsuit, which, by the way, is, depending on the situation, usually not covered by our insurances.
Right.
Right. So we have to be very careful about the facts, and even though there's a lot of emotions tied into this, we are bound by certain laws and regulations and restrictions, and we have followed that. We've followed the advice of our attorney, who we pay to make sure that we stay within those bounds.
Sure.
It's a 100% awful, frustrating situation for everyone involved.
It is, and
A
like
lot
I
of
said,
that-
if we're a little bit more translucent about this and kind of shared information versus getting it off the
So-
internet or somebody at the high school,
So
because
I'll-
the kids are bragging.
I'll go out on a little limb here and say that it's a real hard balancing act between transparency, which we want, and protecting taxpayers and townspeople and employees. It's a huge juggling act when something like this comes up. And 100%, I have a daughter who teaches at the high school, 100% understand the worries and how, of course, everyone knows, right? Even without social media, everyone would, all the kids would know.
So one of the other things you need to understand that we had to navigate with this whole thing is, it's not just violating the privacy of an individual or violating the privacy of an employee, but we also need to make sure that we're not interfering with an investigation as well. So every step we've taken in response to this issue and how we've handled this issue has been through legal advice. So, and part of the problem with that is, and this has been ongoing for a few weeks, you have, so we need legal advice on something, so we have to reach out on it. And then we have to wait to hear back on it. And so there's a lot of back and forth and waiting game with this. So it's not like the kind of thing where we could have just come out and released a statement without putting ourselves at risk, whether it be legal, civil risk, from a civil aspect, or interfering with an investigation. So I understand the frustration, and I appreciate you even being angry about it. And I wish there was something I could say to make this easier, but or to be more transparent. But we're being as transparent as we can be.
How are you keeping the privacy of this when this is put out on the internet and everybody in the world sees it?
We have no control. We have no
Right.
control.
Right, but still, you guys are holding privacy for this,
They don't have any control over that.
Yeah.
but that's not on the internet. But
So
we-
if I could just add one quick thing. So I'm the newest member of the gang, okay? And, you know, the balancing act that Sean was talking about was pretty interesting to me going through all of this, right? Like the processes, trying to make sure that we're following the letter of the law, but then also sort of the separation of duties. What are the pieces that the state police are doing? What are the pieces that Bristol PD needs to do? Right, the whole piece around having a third party take a look at policies and procedures, because that's sort of where we have a level of control. We don't have control over those other things, like whether somebody is charged or not charged. That doesn't come down to us in any way, shape, or form. What the school does, how they exactly respond, isn't necessarily in our control either. We can have a conversation and say, hey, there's some potential, but we don't control that. So I think that's the piece to try to process from your side. Because I can totally hear the frustration, right? Transparency is big. I think everybody here tries to figure out on a very regular basis, how do we be as transparent as possible with everybody in this community around all of the stuff that's going on? Right? So I hear you. I'm not trying to shut you down. I'm just saying, those are the pieces, and it was very eye-opening for me, listening to the process that we needed to go through. As Rob said, okay, let's make sure things are properly redacted, because if you know some of the folks that are involved, and honestly I don't, but there are reasons that it needs to be redacted, right? And again, we don't control those reasons. So
Yeah, my question is, okay, now you guys know, it's out there in WMUR.
yeah.
What's the plan of action? Are you guys going to, when kids brag, we all know, it goes around, somebody does it, or somebody else might want to do it, somebody else is going to do it, somebody else, it's just like a trickle effect. And what's happening is, there's got to be some kind of connection with the community and with the school and what happened to make a situation awareness, like some type of awareness. It doesn't have to be talking specifically about the people involved.
I think we would be open to suggestions.
Well, I was just gonna say, do you have something in
Don't ask her, because she don't give you everything you want.
Well, no, listen, it's all good. At the end of the day, it sounds like you have an idea, and again, we still have what I'm gonna call the filters, so to speak, right? Like, we've gotta go through this process with legal and whatnot to try to go, okay, how do we do stuff? But if somebody has an idea of what should happen, so do you have something that you think should
I think you
happen?
guys need to come out with a statement, not involving people, but with a statement and explain kind of the situation and what could happen. And
Investigation went on.
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have
That
to,
type of
and I know, like with the school, you've got to communicate with them and have it go to the parents, or at least see if they can do some kind of awareness, because
Again, not speaking for the board, but certainly
I would think
individually, and, having some connection to it, I would be happy to be a liaison with the school to see if there is something, in terms of communication that we can do. Again, we've got bumper and parameters, But in terms of that conversation, I would be very happy to be
Because I
involved in
think
that.
both parents need to learn how to store firearms, and if it can happen to some person, that's why I don't understand. If it can happen to somebody here, I don't know why you guys don't say, if this can happen to me, it can happen to you. You
So-
need to lock it up and just like some
Well,
kind of.
what is the town's policy on securing the town's firearm? I mean, is there a policy for securing your
So
firearm? Can you leave it on your front seat or leave it on your counter and just go off in the evening? How does that work?
So I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we could be completely transparent with providing the police department's policy on that?
Of course, you should be able to.
It should
let
be
me-
awesome.
It should
I'd
be
have
public.
I'd have to clarify, but what part of it we can release of the policy, it's their internal policy. so
They
I
are,
think we
okay.
could
Yeah.
do some part of it, it's their standard operating procedures, we
Yeah.
don't even have them here.
Okay.
We only have the one section that pertain, because we sent it to the town's attorney to review.
Right.
I mean, I guess again,
Yeah.
that comes under span of control, right? Like, we're not,
Right,
The governing
yeah,
body
so
of
it's
that.
not, that's not something that we work with on the day-to-day, it's not something we even approve. So let me put it this way, I can't go to Lieutenant Woodard, or so let's say he was Chief Woodard, I can't go to Chief Woodard and say, here's a new policy on how you're gonna secure your firearms. Can't do it. Like, that's not within our span of control. So,
And that's by state RSA.
yeah,
They have their own
yeah.
control on
So
that.
that's governed by the state, how you secure your firearm? Or is it?
No, the
within-
controls,
yeah.
the state doesn't get into the minutia of that, it's the controls of policy and stuff. Who writes the policy, and, you know, basically the whole reason for that is, so we can't tell the chief of police, you know, I need you to investigate
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they have some autonomy there.
Yeah.
So that is an RSA thing. Now, reviewing those policies should be done. I'm not sure, you know, how often that happens. And that is something that we can certainly look into to make sure that that is happening.
But that's just.
Well, again, we
one-
can't, just to be clear, we can't make sure that it's happening.
Yeah.
We can ask
We
that
can-
that
yeah.
happens. We
Yeah.
can ask that the policy be reviewed. And I believe just the general consensus on that is that I think the police department is in the process, so I can't speak for the police department, but I think they are at least taking a look at that and saying, hey, is this outdated? Does it need to be updated?
And it's not just this one thing, securing the firearm. It's the complete events that happened that night. From the theft of the vehicle, which is a town-issued cruiser, how was he gained access to the keys to it? Was there alcohol involved with minors? There was a firearm discharged. I understand it went through 3 towns. 3 towns it went through. And you're telling me, no, you don't know anything about Alexandria?
I do not, no,
Okay, all right.
no.
So,
No, and that's the God's honest truth, so,
okay, so.
And that would be.
not that that matters, but
Right.
Yeah, that would be all part of the state. police.
that's part of the state police investigation, so. And that's
That's
for,
what I'm saying, it's not
Yeah.
just the securing the firearm, I'm talking the whole thing.
yeah.
What kind of policies do we have so that this doesn't happen again? Or maybe it was part of the policy that was.
So you bring up a great point, right? And this is why we asked, but this is why we asked when it happened. This is why we asked for an outside investigation of the policies and procedures as they sit today. Not to say that something shouldn't be updated or not. That's why for us, that was step one. Because the other pieces, the state police and the other stuff, we don't have control or say or any of that, right? Like our piece was, okay, immediately, okay, how does that go as it's currently written? And that's why that report was important.
So one thing I can tell you, so not speaking for the board, speaking for myself, that I'm going to push for is a review of town policy on take-home vehicles. And how,
I
how
agree.
how those take-home vehicles are secured, you know, and whether, you know, if the person is away for an extended absence, are we going to, you know, is it gonna be, you know, the town vehicle goes back to the department it comes from and stays secured there. So there's definitely things that we as a town need to look introspectively and say, how do we improve these things so an incident like this cannot occur again?
I mean, as a taxpayer, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the new fire department getting a new Suburban at $82,000. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of change to most people.
Yep.
You know, compared to our budget, which is, you know, it's peanuts.
Yeah.
But still,
Not really.
we all work hard. I'm here in my work clothes. And I work hard my entire life, and I pay my taxes on time. All my taxes are paid. And I wanna know where that money's going,
Yep.
and whether or not it's being, this is the
As
first
do
time
we.
I've ever, this is the first time I've ever been in front of the selectmen.
Yep.
Seriously, 53
Yeah.
years, first time.
Yep.
And it's frustrating to see a situation that is not just one little thing, oh yeah, they fired a handgun that belonged to a neighbor. No, it's the chief of police's gun, issued by him. He got access to it, stole the cruiser, running around with sirens going, pulling people over at 4:30 in the morning,
So,
shooting the gun.
just
So
for the
it's-
record, some of what you're saying is
Again,
not necessarily accurate.
Well, it could be and it couldn't,
Yeah.
because you.
I don't know.
There's certain protections, there's certain protections.
There's protections and there's
You
an
guys have to-
investigation that we're not privy to as
Exactly.
well.
Yep.
Right. So again, there's a lot of rumors that are out there, but a lot of them actually are becoming true. The more and more truths that come out, because like, why didn't we hear anything from the town? Why isn't anything, and all of a sudden NPR has to pull this story out by filing this, filing that, to get some information. The outside source that was done by the investigate, what was the outside source? Was it a town, a local town that did an investigation?
It was in the report, so you can say that.
Yeah, it was, so that investigation was conducted, so we originally reached out to Belleville County Sheriff's Office. They were available to
Grafton County.
conduct.
Grafton
Grafton
County.
County.
Sorry, Grafton County. Yes, we were in Grafton County. So this is why I don't like talking about things, because I'm wrong half the time. They weren't available, so we then contacted Franklin Police Department, and we had Franklin Police Department conduct an internal investigation.
Of which we as a select board and town officials had no input into,
Yeah.
into who did it, how it was
I would
done.
think it'd be, you know, an honest investigation, you know, not like Alexandria or Hill or a neighboring town, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's why we did that, so it would be independent.
some separation.
For
yeah.
anything here, right?
And it was something that we wanted done sooner than later, you know, we wanted to get to the bottom of
We
it.
did it right away.
And didn't want to drop that out, so, because we wanted to make, you know, and that's why initially, the chief was placed on leave, not only for, not because we thought he might have done something wrong, but for his own, concern as well, so.
You know, as Christina was reminding me, like, I think also like normally departments, if it's not the chief of police, they'll do their own internals.
Yeah.
Because it was the chief, we definitely wanted it outside. Right, so that was the other piece.
So what changes, if any, have been made since this whole situation? I mean,
I don't think from, like,
nothing's changed.
no, not so much that, they're not done, like, there's still a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
going on.
there's
This
still.
is not,
I mean, like I said, there's two separate parts to this. There's the criminal investigation, which the chief is not a part of. He's not involved with that, he's not named it, he's not charged. And then there's the internal investigation. So there is that separate investigation, which I don't know if it's open or closed. They don't call you up and say, yeah, the investigation's closed, here it is, you know. But I can tell you that from an operational standpoint of the police department, that there is no threat or issue with the day-to-day operations of the police department, and that this board supports and stands behind the chief.
Well, hope you stay behind your citizens too, though.
Is that kid, like, that's what I meant, we know nothing. We don't hear what the kids say, and like,
Yeah.
we know the kid goes to our school.
I,
It's 100%, and I know I can't go out and say nothing, but
so, and like I said, is, excuse me, our utmost concern is the safety of our community.
yes.
And that if you feel like we are not protecting the safety of our community, I would encourage you to go to whatever law enforcement agency if you feel like things are not being handled the way they should be. All I can do is tell you and take us at our word that we've handled it and that there is no threat to the public or no danger to the public. I know it's easy for me to say
I
that,
think
you know?
that's what you guys need to say to them, because it's out there. You guys
Yeah.
need to address it, because what's gonna happen is, while I'm sitting here, I'm the only one that's brave enough to come forward out of all the other parents. So you have an entire school district.
But you need to
So-
understand that legally, we can only be so
Well, that's
transparent.
what I meant, but
Right.
you can come forward.
So this isn't me personally,
That's
they can say,
what-
here's what happened, and, you know.
Yeah, that's what I meant, you could come forward and at least say, I wanna let you know that we're taking this seriously, at least say we're
But-
taking it
Yes.
seriously, and then there, you know.
I think the challenge.
Don, did you have something?
No, yeah, I mean,
But I think the challenge, I mean, to being
Oh, I know.
as transparent as I can, is going, okay, hey, let's just say the statement was, we had an incident in town, but we think everybody's safe. Like, it's almost like one sentence. Feels like that causes more angst, because there isn't a lot of detail that can be given.
And
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what happened with the letter that came from the school.
That's
No
what you have.
detail, they said there was an incident, it's been addressed, and there was nobody in harm.
Right, so I see why, and so you see sort of the conundrum. I'm gonna get a dictionary up.
I'll give you, I'm sorry.
No, all I'm saying is that's the balancing act, right? Like, okay, because we can say, hey, there's been an incident, but everybody's safe. I know for me, I'd be going, okay, what was the incident? What was going on? Like, I'd have lots and lots of questions. And it's not to say it's not a desire to be transparent in any way, shape, or form. It's a desire to make sure that we're following the rules and regs that we have to follow within the span of control that we have.
I think when you guys aren't saying anything, and us all parents finding out.
Yeah,
So,
Is what's.
hear out what I was gonna say next before you say that.
It's like a-
So we were, in the position we're put in, so there's an incident, right? So it's like, do we go out there and put information out there and cause public alarm? Because we can only
Say
put so much information out there. Do we cause public alarm for nothing? Because, and that's, I hate to say it, but you like have to trust us that there's no threat, or not just us, but us and state police who's investigating the incident that occurred, that there is no threat. So do we want to cause public harm? But this is the first time that anybody has come to the board with anything too. And it happens to be the same day that WMUR releases the, right. So now that it's,
That was a coincidence.
That is fine.
so now this whole thing is out there. So, and trust me, we get rumors too. But we can't act on rumors. We can act with a concerned citizen walking in here, whether it be now or 2 weeks ago or 2 months from now. And then we can react to it and say, hey, we've been made aware of this. We haven't had so much as a phone call about this, have we?
Not that I got.
I think,
It's been pretty quiet.
I think parents.
Yes.
Everybody's talking, but it's been pretty
Right,
quiet.
and that-
Nobody wants to stand
And I-
up
yeah.
because they're worried. Because
I think that
they
goes
are.
to the
That's what it is.
sensitivity of all the parties.
Exactly, and that, so
Dealing with, yeah.
to finish what I was saying, so this is out there now, it's on the 6 o'clock news, I just got a notification on my phone about it. So now what so we're speaking with you folks right now, so, and I'm gonna be very transparent in how this is gonna go, and people are out there watching on YouTube right now. You folks are gonna leave, we're gonna go into non-public session, we're gonna have a discussion about this and how we're gonna respond to this. Are we not gonna, maybe we don't respond at all. But the 5, 6 of us, including Christina, are gonna sit here and discuss how we're gonna respond to this. And then no matter what we decide in here, that's gonna go to legal. And legal's gonna review that and make sure we're not stepping on our own toes.
We're not supposed to.
Or opening us taxpayers, us townspeople, up to a civil litigation. And then the town will, I would expect that the town will release a statement. It is possible that we may decide, we may draft a statement and say, this is the statement we're gonna release, and we give that to legal, and then legal may say, no, don't release a statement. And that's, the 5 of us are the ones that are responsible to represent you.
Yeah.
And we have to do what's best what's in, not our best interest, but what's in your best interest or try and represent the interests of the townspeople. And that's not to open the town up to a lawsuit.
So one of the questions I'm gonna have, and it's gonna be probably for council, it's gonna be, what do other communities do? Like, is it a police blotter on a regular basis? Like, there are other things to
Can't
do,
do that anymore.
Yeah.
you know, so.
Can't.
Oh, we can't do that anymore? Okay,
I
all
can
right.
check again, but last we were told is not to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is we want to be as open and, we want, I mean, and Lieutenant Woodard can attest to this. He's standing here right now. One of the biggest things that I push is, the officers being out in the community and being involved with the community and having a good relationship with the community. We're not, education over enforcement. We're not, you don't see these guys out there running speed traps and harassing people and, and that's like, we have a great relationship between the community and the police department, and, it's our utmost priority to maintain that, so.
Because it's set to 60.
And that was one of my questions, how do we go forward from here, making sure it doesn't happen again?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And all we can do is try
Because
to.
That is
policies in
absolutely true.
place, it could happen again.
It
And somebody
could.
get another free pass. That's
Yeah.
that's what our concern is.
Oh, and that's.
There's no accountability anymore. You break the law, something happens, and there's no accountability. If I get stopped for speeding, I hope I don't, but if I get stopped, I'm gonna get a ticket. That's called accountability.
Chances are you're not, because it's gonna cost the town money to give that ticket. But point taken, 100%, yeah.
But I can assure you that we are doing our best as a group
Yeah.
to represent you and to with the utmost concern for the safety of our town.
And,
Sean?
go ahead, no, Don's been waiting.
You'd mentioned numerous times the school. Unfortunately, we have no control over that,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to put you off to somebody else, but those concerns
Yeah.
are valid,
But can you
and you need to take them to the school board and the superintendent, so that they address them properly. Just like you're coming here and making sure we're doing the right thing, which is a good thing, I'm glad you're doing it. You also need to do that to the school part.
And I really appreciate you folks coming and having a reasonable discussion too.
This is a great educational opportunity, not just for the school, but the community. on what's-
Right.
I agree 100% with that.
Absolutely.
I'm totally serious about having that conversation
That's a
with
good
the
idea.
school and with parents, because I understand, I'm a parent, I was there, where you are now, and, I get
It's a
it,
big deal.
I get it 100%, yeah.
And, we can put the tightest stringent town policies for our employees. That's all we can control. This incident could still happen outside of that, even if we do everything we possibly can, which we will, as we discussed, and live within our realm. But it's out there, right? So education, I'm sure we'll put together a program. We have a great police force, and I'm sure they're more than willing to go out there and educate.
Not just kids.
They are at the state level. There's some bills being not forced through, going through the process. And part of that is education at school with handguns. But we can only control so much what happens we can't control everything that happens at school.
Well, what about
No, that
us
was
as
one.
parents? Like, it was an adult who left 8
So-
guns, so how can we educate
happens-
the community a
Well,
little bit?
I'm
Like,
sure it happens, it does. It
I know
happens
it
more often than
does,
you would think.
But if you can't, even
But-
if the chief of police came out and said, listen, this is me, this is what happened to me, this could definitely,
Sure.
100%
And that's-
happen to you.
And
So don't
that's,
be blinded.
he may.
I'm
That
not
may.
saying to do it, I'm just saying.
Right, but I'm saying that may be something that he or, through the police department comes out with some type of education campaign for the school.
Yeah.
And honestly, they'd be willing to work with you on that.
And not
Right.
the school,
You're
I'm
sitting-
talking about adults, like.
You're sitting here,
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it. I get
Adults,
it.
not just
Sure.
kids, I mean,
Yeah.
because you know how easy it is, we live in
Mm-hmm.
a town where we all most of us have weapons, just.
Sure.
You so as a parent, maybe this is a reminder, a wake-up call to the community, that if it can happen to this
Somebody
person,
that doesn't-
then
Yeah.
it could happen.
And I would strongly recommend you even approaching the police department with that idea. You're sitting here having a very reasonable, educated conversation with us. You know, I think it's a great idea,
Rob,
so. Oh, sorry?
I just want to add those, when you said that it's adults not to go to school, but that's where the adults are, their kids are in the school, and those are the people you really need to talk to, is the parents with the kids
Yeah.
in the school district, because that's where your biggest exposure comes from,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and it's how do you get that audience? You know, what is it through, like, I don't know if there's an active PTA at the high school.
Or the school might be able to host
Yeah.
something, you never
Yeah.
know.
You know, could they, or is it like an informational brochure or something like that that gets, you know, sent to parents, that sort of thing, so. But yeah, no, certainly, you know, an incident that caused us a great deal of concern and, that we had to handle, and it's out in the open, and, we appreciate your concern in coming in, and we're more than happy to answer anyone else's questions that would like to attend another meeting. So there's, as much as we can.
Within our purview.
Well, yeah, exactly,
I
so.
think the problem is a lot of people don't want to say anything because of
I
who
get that.
it is. They're, you know what I mean? It's that
I get that.
fine line,
Yeah.
and they're just,
You know, as selectmen, select people, you know, yes, we have these meetings and we do the town's executive function, but we're also individuals in the community, and I would say, if they don't want to come to a meeting and talk to us as a board, they can certainly reach out to us as individuals and talk to us. I mean, that's why, you know, that's one of our, you know, beyond being one of our duties, that is really where things happen locally, right? So I've always believed that, and the reason I keep being a dummy and coming back to this board, is because I think you can do things on a local level that you just can't do state and federal. So, so come to us as individuals as well if you're, and spread that word. If people are uncomfortable coming to a meeting, which I get 100%, come to us as individuals. Yep, our contact emails are on the website, and we can get together over coffee or whatever and talk about anything.
Yeah, you're pretty reasonable over an espresso.
I am.
No, Americana.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
No, that's too weak. So,
Anyways, thanks, guys.
Again, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I would not want to be in your chairs right now.
Appreciate that.
good
May-
luck.
It's not exactly the fun part of the
Tough
job.
times.
may you live in interesting times. Right?
But please don't hesitate to read, all our emails are on the town website. You can reach out to us individually, you can reach out to Christina, and that goes for anybody watching. We're as open of a book as we can be legally on this whole thing.
Oh, it's reasonable, I understand. There's a gray area.
Yeah.
Like I said, about the investigation.
Sure.
If it's an ongoing investigation, and you
Yeah.
start releasing information, it taints that, or
Mhm.
hurts it in some way.
Right,
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
It could come back
So-
to backfire.
yeah,
awesome, thanks.
On so
everybody.
many levels.
Oh,
Yeah.
but
now that you explained it that way, it does make a lot of sense.
I wanna thank you both very much for coming in and having a reasonable conversation.
Yes. Well, We
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Thank
you,
all three of
gentlemen.
you, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
All right, take
Pass
care.
that along.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Christina.
Thanks.
Good night.
Have a great night.
Any other public? Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that.
Hey,
You know, you didn't want.
Hey, Scott, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A3, 2, paragraphs A and C.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Don, second by Scott to go back into non-public session. Roll call vote, John?
Yes.
Aye. Yeah.
Mr. Legume?
Aye.
Don and I.
Scott?
Aye.
Rob, aye.